Hey everyone, and happy Easter. He is risen. Christos Anesti. You can hear the church bells in the background. And I am currently in the Protestant cemetery that is connected to our school. And being on lockdown this Easter turned out to be such an incredible gift because we ended up getting to go through Holy Week and all the reflective events leading up to it in such a unique way, ending up with our Easter resurrection service being here in this graveyard. And it's powerful imagery. And today we used a method that we use on the ship a lot called Simply the Story. And it's a way to tell the story orally and learn and glean and reflect on it as a community, as a group of people. So there's never one set message. We just ask questions and we dig deeper into the text and we let the Spirit lead us in our discussion. And so I told the resurrection story found in Matthew 28. It's a short story, it's a well-known story, but its truth is timeless and powerful and alive. So let me tell you a story. After the Sabbath, at dawn, on the first day of the week, Mary Magdalene and the other Mary went to look at the tomb. Now there was a violent earthquake, for an angel of the Lord came down from heaven and going to the tomb rolled the stone away and sat on it. The guards were so afraid of him that they shook and became like dead men. But the angel said to the women, "Do not be afraid, for I know you are looking for Jesus, who was crucified. He is not here, for he is risen, just as he said. Come and see the place where he lay. And now go and tell the disciples that he is going on ahead of them to Galilee, and there they will see him. Now I have told you." And so the woman hurried away, afraid but filled with joy, and they ran to tell the disciples. And as they were going, Jesus came to them and said, "Greetings." And the woman came to him, clasped his feet, and worshipped him. And Jesus said, "Do not be afraid, but go and tell my brothers to go to Galilee. There they will see me." And that's the story. And not just a story, but arguably the greatest story the world has ever been given. And there's so much to unpack in this story. We took time this morning to go through just a few simple questions, looking at things that we liked about the story, looking at things that maybe confused us or left us wondering, that's interesting. And then we go through each character and we ask, what did Mary Magdalene and the other Mary teach us by what they did or didn't do, by what they said or didn't say? What do we learn from the guards? What did we learn from the angel who rolled away a stone and sat on it? And who said at the end of his message, "Now I have told you," which seems strange at first, but when we think about it, perhaps it shows that he was being obedient to God. He came and did and said what he was supposed to say, and he could have said more, he could have done more, but he did what he was supposed to do. Now I have told you. And something that is really striking to me about this story is that Jesus doesn't appear to Mary Magdalene and the other Mary until they are on the way. They are in motion. They are obeying the angel's words, and that's when Jesus comes alongside them and says, "Greetings." And so you get this really beautiful connection between Mary Magdalene and Mary hearing the words of the angel. They're afraid, but they're filled with joy, and they immediately spring into action. And I love that they didn't wait. They weren't like, "Show us Jesus first. Where is Jesus? Why can't he tell us himself? We're going to wait till we figure this out, and then we'll go tell the disciples." They don't only go to tell the disciples. The text tells us that they run. And it's in the midst of obedience that Jesus comes alongside them. Furthermore, Jesus' commission to the women is very interesting to me because the angel has already told them Jesus is going to Galilee, tell the disciples to go meet him there, and yet Jesus takes the time to personally tell the woman, "Tell my brothers." First time he uses the word brothers to describe his disciples, which is a much more beloved family term, right? And they're not just his disciples now, they're his brothers. "Tell my brothers to go and they will see me there." And in doing so, two things are happening. First of all, these two women are getting to become agents of the gospel message in its completion, agents of reconciliation. They get to go and tell the brothers, the disciples, who I'm sure are feeling great shame, great guilt, sorrow, disbelief. I mean, we can only imagine why they're not there at the tomb with the women. There was only, I believe, one disciple who's mentioned to even be at the crucifixion. And so we can imagine that perhaps they're feeling ashamed, like they let Jesus down. And yet, Jesus tells the two Marys to go and deliver this message that is rich with forgiveness. There's no sense of anger or or bitterness or passive aggressiveness in Jesus's message. It's just go tell my brothers I want to be with them. I want them to come see me. And then secondly, something we noticed is there's this push to go to Galilee, which we could discuss further significance behind the idea of leaving Jerusalem and going to Galilee, the place where his ministry began. Jesus not seeming to be concerned with showing the people who crucified him that, guess what, I'm back, suckers. Like, he's not even concerned. He's concerned with the disciples, with those who love him and want to follow him, heading out with him, heading out to meet him. There's a tangent, interesting, but still a tangent. What I really wanted to focus on is this idea that the disciples have to take the witness of these two women and they have to believe it. They don't get to see Jesus themselves. They have to take the woman's word and believe that Jesus will meet them in Galilee. And it's already a several-hour drive to get there, so you can imagine it's probably a few days to walk there. Already, the day of Jesus' resurrection, the disciples are needing to do what we are still doing thousands of years later, which is take a story of faithful witnesses who wrote it down in the Gospels and believe that that story is true, even though we don't get to see the physical resurrected Jesus for ourselves. And I love that because I think so often we think, oh, if I was just a disciple, it'd be so much easier to believe in God. They got to see him and see his miracles and all this stuff, which is true, of course. They got to live life with him. But when it came to this most important moment of Jesus' resurrection, they had to believe these two women and get up and go on this journey to Galilee. Go to Galilee. There you will see me. My friends and I were just discussing how interesting it is to be here in Jerusalem during this whole Corona craziness, because this time, our semester in Jerusalem is nothing like we thought it would be. And as we compare it to what the disciples were going through, of course, a lot more drastic of an event, but still, we want to learn to find ourselves in the story as well. Their visit to Jerusalem turned out to be nothing like they expected. Now, they're going in with their Messiah, with Jesus, hoping that he's going to be the king that creates a new kingdom. Probably they're hoping he'll defeat the Romans and that this is going to be a triumphal, not just a triumphal entry, but a triumphal visit. And their hopes, an idea of what their time in Jerusalem would be like, is completely dashed. And now Jesus is calling them to leave Jerusalem, leave it behind and go to Galilee. And in the same way we have been reflecting here as we continue this lockdown on campus, this isn't what we've expected, but it's what God is choosing to work through. This is the semester he had for us all along. It's not what we thought, it's what he knew. And we actually can't physically go to Galilee because that would be breaking the law right now. But in our own symbolic way, we can go to Galilee. We can leave behind our expectations and we can follow what Jesus really has for us right now. I hope that wherever you are in the world, in whatever community or house or apartment you're locked down in, you feel God's call on your life. You take joy in the fact that the tomb is empty, but we don't even have to physically see it to believe it. Because the witnesses, the stories are enough. And the disciples had to believe it too. And they had to get up and believe that Jesus would be there when they got there. And so may you feel encouraged that through your doubts or your fears or your anxieties or insecurities or doubts or whatever it is, you can still, with that, find joy and follow Jesus into the unknown. And as I've said before, I think God is a God who works pretty well in the unknown. We have a Bible full of stories proving it. So, thank you for listening. Have an incredible Easter. Christos Anesti, as we used to say on the ship. And I'll see you next time.